Good morning. I'm Georgia Williams with the Investing News Network, and I'm here with Daniel Major, CEO of GoviEx Uranium. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Georgina.
It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
How are you enjoying the conference?
It's been very good. Very, very good.
Uranium performed well in Q3. Do you see that trend continuing in Q4 of 2019?
Oh, absolutely. I think we were at the beginning of a real shift up. I think the key driver has been Cameco's decision to close and Kazatomprom deciding they're now value, not volume. So I think that continual buying by Cameco is going to drive it. They've got to break through some hurdles out there in the market. But with that, I think investors should really be looking at the uranium price and expecting it to go higher.
A lot of talk in the uranium space is always focused on Canada and Kazakhstan. You're an African-focused uranium miner. How does mining in African countries compare to Canada and Kazakhstan?
Africa has been producing 8%, 10% of the world's uranium for a very long time. Areva started mining in 1971 in Niger, so it's a long history of it. The deposits are relatively easy. We like Niger as where one of our primary projects is. Why? Because the government is very pragmatic. 60% of their exports every year is uranium, and they have a very strict rule of law. So for us, we like working in Africa. And the other thing as well is that some of the biggest takeouts in the last cycle were actually done in Africa. The smallest was 1.2 billion, the largest was 2.4. So other countries like the Russian government and the Chinese governments, they go looking for projects they can own and produce uranium from. So Africa's the place to be.
Now, GoviEx is on a journey from being a developer to a producer. Can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah. In about 2010, we basically had found an enormous resource in Niger. And at that point, we decided that we had to de-risk the project, and the best way to de-risk the project was to turn it into a mine. So we've started along that process all the way, and we've continued to optimize it. We're working on the debt at the moment as well for the project. And, that is what we're in this business for, is finding deposits and turning them into mines. And so from an investor point of view as well, we're one of the few companies that can get that re-rate in this. All uranium companies will go up in value with the uranium price moving, but we're one of the few which you'll see go from being a developer to being a producer. And that's roughly about a 2 times multiple straight off in its own right. So it's a good investment for an investor to look at rather than just a company that just stays being an explorer.
Now, there's been a little bit of talk about uranium explorers getting into the vanadium space. Would GoviEx ever consider that?
Well, it depends on your deposit. We have molybdenum. The moly price has been running as well. So, no, you're driven by your ore body that you've got, and we're not chasing metals just to be in a metal. Our business is to be a uranium producer out of the best uranium projects, and the fact that others decide that they have to chase a different metal because their uranium projects don't work, then let them do that.
Right. Now, you mentioned the Cameco closure as one of the big stories for the year. Are there any other stories that stood out to you in the uranium sector?
I think Kazatomprom was obviously another clear view that they'd changed their general cultural view of how they were going to operate. I think on the big picture as well, we're seeing a general acceptance that nuclear is the way to go from an energy point of view, including the WA, the World Nuclear Association, now being invited into United Nations bodies to help with the energy policy, which in the past, World Bank and IFC bodies would not talk to the nuclear industry. So I think that cultural change has come through, and it's not going to affect the short term, but does show the long term is changing.
What should investors know about junior uranium companies?
That's a very wide scoping question. Look, at the end of the day, it's no different to any other commodity sector you're looking in. You're just going to be looking at whether you want to play the developers, the explorers, or the producers. I think the key for us, obviously, is that if you're looking at North American stocks, you've got to be looking at permitting and permitting risk, and know that you're not going to be going into production for a very long time. I mean, it's a 10-year process here in Canada. There are some producers that can return themselves back on again in the US, for example. In our case, permitting was 6 months. So for the African projects, it's more about, what price do they need to get themselves up and running. And what we're trying to do is bring our costs down to get us in a sort of $45, $50 range that would allow us to start construction.
Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Georgia Williams with the Investing News Network. Thank you very much.